Okay, so we'll take refuge and offer mandala. We'll go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. For now until enlightenment, I'll work for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all beings be happy. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. From now until enlightenment, I'll work for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all beings be happy. I go for refuge to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. From now until enlightenment, I'll work for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all beings be happy. And I only know it in Tibetan, so Sa Shi Boki Choji Mito Dam Rira Linji Nida Gimbadi Sangye Jingdu Migde Buwarki Drogan Nana Jingla Jo War Sho Yedam Guru Rana Mandala Kam Near Tayami. So welcome everybody to the class. Now the objective of the class was to introduce preliminary practices. So first, I'll first talk about myself. In the sense that when I went to India in 1970, and then I met with Lama Yeshe at the beginning of 71, and by the time I got to the summer of 71, I was then ordained as a monk and such. And it was just sort of said, well, you should do the preliminary practices. And say, why? Well, because it removes interferences and it accumulates good energy, or good karma, so to speak. But and so I think I started off. I did first 20,000 prostrations and then gave up because it was just I didn't really have any teachings either at that point. I mean, other than just sort of respect to the Buddha, which I will discuss a little bit. All of the 4 preliminaries. So anyway, I did that, and then I did periodically mandala offerings. Actually, Lama Yeshe gave me his mandala plate, which is quite precious for me. I still have it actually for offering mandalas on. And then the Vajrasattva, I didn't do that until later. Then by 1972, I went into, and again, I remember I was a monk, so this doesn't apply for us as lay people as easily, but I was a monk and I was 21 years old, or 22 at that point. And so then I did a 9-month retreat, of which I did 100,000 prostrations. That took 3 months, doing 1,000 a day. And then I did the Vajrasattva retreat again. That took 3 months because that was 1,000 a day. And then I shifted over, and I think I did the mandala offerings then. I don't remember that. I did those 2 retreats. Oh, and then I did Guru Yoga. So I did 3 of the 4 preliminaries in a period of 9 months. So, and I was thinking about it because, Odysseus asked me to go and teach this. And I thought, well, what was my understanding? Well, it's just, it helps your path go better. So I was, this is what I'm going to have to do. And I guess as a 20-year-old, I was really intense, and because living in India with the Tibetans and all of that environment. Now we're all in the West, and maybe some of you might have gone to India on occasion. But so let's talk about it in practical terms. Okay, I would first off say, like, why preliminaries? Okay, well, the first preliminary really was called the graduated path, or the advice of my teacher. It depends which lineage you're in. There's also the Lamdre, the path and results in the Sakyapa lineage. But all of that is context. It's like you're understanding what you're doing to yourself. So don't ever think that your intellectual study of the graduated path is sort of like, oh, that's just for beginners. I'm a tantric practitioner. No, your whole tantric practice is based on that. So what is the graduated path really talking about it in sort of realistic terms? And again, there's lots of teachings on it. There's extensive and short. I recommend you try to read those. But the graduate path is, okay, I have a precious human rebirth. That means, hey, I lucked out. I got a good rebirth. And actually, really, especially when you look at it in terms of Tantra, you have an incredible technique that you've been made available to. So it's just like unbelievable. I mean, and it's not something that's just sort of like a new age and do this and do that or whatever. I mean, this is a technique practiced by yogis for 2,000 years. There's a lot of similar practices in other traditions, for example, Hinduism and in Taoism and such. There are similar things. But the bottom line is that those practices are very solidly grounded. They're not just sort of, like I say, some new age sort of thing about this or that, and they're not just rituals. They are substantial practices to transform yourself. So you really lucked out. And I mean, there's an example in the Precious Human Rebirth teachings that just says that, I mean, if you, let's say there's like if you took a grain of a pile of sand, at the very top, there's very few because everything falls to the bottom. Well, that's like you're at the top because you got a precious human rebirth. And not only that, you got a rebirth where you have access to practicing Tantra, understanding yourself, opening yourself up, gaining higher realizations, all of that thing. So really, really fortunate. Then the second graduate path is things are impermanent. So where do I put importance? That's something that's really worthwhile to think about, in the sense of, for example, all the possessions you have, like right now, if they say you have a really nice cell phone and an Apple or something, or maybe you have a really fancy set of jewelry, like a really good, nice ring or whatever you might have, all of those things, all of them are going to disappear. Someone's going to throw them in the garbage, or they're basically going to be completely of no importance to somebody in the future. So the point being is that possessions, use them well, be generous or share as you can, but don't overvaluate them. They're going to be somebody else's garbage, or they're going to be garbage at some point. So what I want is at the end of my life, I feel good about the material things I had and what I did with them. That's the proper understanding, because we're in a path which could go for lifetimes, but the point is it's not like a one-shot deal. We want to cultivate something in this rebirth that goes to the next rebirth, it could go to the next one, and into enlightenment. So for example, possessions, use them well, and if you have some nice possessions, well, enjoy them, share them if you want to and stuff, but don't get arrogant or proud. Then relationships. And this one's the one that I've had some questions about relationships. Somebody asked me, like I've got a little bit of attachment to my girlfriend, what do I do? Am I really practicing Buddhism? I just have to laugh, I mean, okay, if you're in a Hinayana style of Buddhism, then attachment's a big enemy. You completely want to destroy it, so you should not have girlfriends. You should go, live in an isolated place and do lots of meditation, and you get personal liberation. But we're in the Bodhisattva path. That means we're cultivating ourselves to be beneficial to ourselves, but also beneficial to others. And that's in that way, then, if you're in a relationship, cultivate it skillfully. What am I offering to this individual? Because my point being, again, with impermanence is at the end of your life, you're just going to be left with whatever shit you did with that person. I mean, you're not left with anything fancy. So if you did some good things with that person, great. And if you did a bunch of lousy things, like you're possessive and jealous or whatever else, well, that's all you're going to be left with at the end of the life. That person disappears and goes in their own direction, and you go in your direction according to the karma you accumulated. So in relationships, whether you're having an intimate relationship with somebody or whatever, hey, offer the best you can. And at the end of the life, you're going to say, hey, maybe I wasn't a Buddha, but I was pretty good. I did the best I could. So again, that's graduated path. Gets your act together, gets yourself clarified. So graduate path isn't some sort of like dogmatic stuff. It's a working with yourself skillfully. And then your body, I mean, you groom it and you feed it so well and you bathe it and you exercise it, and then the sucker kills you. Bottom line is that's what kills you is your body. So the thing is, again, take care of your body. Yeah, live a long life so you can practice well. But don't get vain and arrogant about it. Just take good care of it, and it'll take good care of you. And again, in Tantra, it's the basis of our practice. Our body, the nerves, the channels, the hormones, all of those things are the basis for our Tantra practice. So of course, you definitely take care of it. In fact, when you took your Tantric initiations, if you did take Yamataka, Haruka, or whatever, it says in there specifically, you cannot abuse your body. You have to take care of it, because it's the basis of your Tantric practice. Anyway, so that's impermanence. Things are impermanent. At the end of my life, I'm just going to be left with whatever I've been doing. So if I've been miserly or proud and arrogant, that's what I'm left with. If I've been possessive and domineering, that's all I'm going to be left with. So if you think about the next rebirth, what do I want to send to that guy? I don't know who I would say 90% of you or 95% of you don't even know where you came from your previous rebirth, other than maybe some inclinations. Well, that's the same thing for the next one in line. but they're going to be affected by the karma that you accumulated. Like you've been affected by the karma that the previous guy accumulated. So if the previous person didn't do a very good job, then you have a pretty lousy life because just you got stuff to work out. But if you work on yourself and you improve, you're sending a very nice gift to the next person in line. And maybe if they become a Buddhist, they can say, hey, thank you to the last rebirth because they did a good job. I'm on the path. I've got stuff to do. I've got clarity. I've been having good relationships. I'm not, not suffering from poverty or something like that. Okay, well, that's the second point, impermanence. So again, it's the context, how you're living your life as a Tantric Bodhisattva. Then there's refuge. Refuge is basically I'm inspired by the Buddha, I'm inspired by the gurus, I have all these great teachings, and then basically I have my spiritual friends, my sangha, my community. Okay, so that's important. Then there's like cultivating karma, how you can really cultivate karma, and that comes into prostrations, for example, which we'll talk about in a sec. But the bottom line is it's just knowing how to cultivate your karma, how to cultivate yourself. I mean, karma means activity. Okay, and then you go into how to deal with your delusions. Well, for example, if you're Yamantaka, you've got 34 arms to deal with all the different ways that delusions can come up. Okay, that's why Yamantaka has 34 arms, because it's just symbolic of all the capacities I have. And by identifying with that, then you basically are getting closer to having those abilities and those capacities. Okay, anyways, that's how to deal with delusions. And then basically I'm interdependent with the universe. So as much as the universe helps me, I get food and support and whatever else, I offer something back. So that's the basis of bodhicitta. There's different ways of developing bodhicitta, but that's the one of I am interdependent with the universe. So as much as I'm supported, may I offer something back. And then you have the 6 perfections and such. Okay, all of that is context for your tantric practice. That's all. Now, how successful your tantric practice will be does depend on how much good energy you have. And each one of you, there's 14 of you online right now. So each one of you individually will have growth in different ways. There's not sort of one universal way. So maybe 1 or 2 of you might go off like a skyrocket, and other ones of you might take a long time. Doesn't matter. You're doing something with yourself. Like I said, if your previous rebirth was well cultivated, this rebirth will go really well. You won't have any trouble with money. You won't have any trouble with relationships, stuff like that, because you cultivated yourself. Okay, so in this rebirth, you cultivate yourself. Okay, so actually, I was just remembering, like, I didn't, so often when we're young and if we're with gurus, especially with some of the Tibetan lamas, which are very perceptive, like Lama Yeshe, I remember that when my first teaching was him was in January of 1971, and he could barely speak English, but he could speak enough that it was quite good. And so we were all in Buddha Gaya, around the Buddha Gaya stupa. We were in a little cave called Nagarjuna's cave. It's just basically a small stupa, but it was open in the center that you could sit in. There's about 10 of us, and then Lama gave this talk, and you could just sense from him, he had something. He had energy, he had bliss, and he had happiness, and he was smart. You could feel the depths of who he was. So it was really obvious, And I was just like, wow, I'm really intrigued with this guy. And then on top of that, then as he was talking, he says, some of you will go off like a skyrocket, and some of you will go slow. And that's what I'm saying is each one of you individually, in starting your practice, you don't compare yourself to anybody else. It's personal stuff. There's a ripened effect of some previous rebirths. I would tend to think all of you have very good rebirths because you're sitting here listening to me and you've got tantric initiations, or you're at least interested in your spiritual practice in the Buddhist way. That would be a really easy one to say, hey, you guys have Buddhist karma, but you could have karma in other spiritual traditions. It's just maybe Buddhism caught you this time. Well, whatever the case, you do have an interest in your spirituality. That's why you're here. Now, Buddhism is about personal cultivation. We have the Buddha, enlightened being, is omniscient and all of those things, but Buddha can't zap us or something like that. Buddha inspires us, and actually, if you get sensitive enough, you can even communicate with the Buddha. Many of the great masters, whether it was Milarepa said that He says, he was talking to Red Chung, but he said, when you go to sleep, you go unconscious. When I go to sleep, I go to the pure land of Excobia and get teachings. Okay, so the thing is, you can have communication with Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, high-level beings, if you develop the sensitivity and the capacity. So it's not like totally self-cultivation. There is supportive circumstances, but still, bottom line is you have to cultivate yourself. Okay, so in regards to that, okay, you are interested, you've got a good rebirth, you've got some clarity about what's important and not important, you're inspired. Okay, now we go into the actual preliminary practices. Now, the example is I completed all 4 of the preliminary practices by 1973 or 74, somewhere there, okay, and that was prostrations, Vajrasattva, Guru Yoga, and Mandala offerings. Then I studied for a couple of years, taking lots of teachings again, because remember I was a monk, I was in India, lots of things were available. So I do encourage you, because there's lots of teachings online now. I just heard Song Rinpoche is in Germany, or he does a class every Sunday in Germany, and it's just on, I think it's called the basis of all qualities. It's a very basic, graduated path text, but he's only about, what, I think 36 years old now. He's special. If you guys, especially if you're in Europe, I mean, I'm not sure he's in Europe, he's actually in India, and he does, I guess, a Zoom or a conference or something. But getting a connection with him would be good. He's someone going somewhere with himself, and you can feel it when you're around him. That's Song Rinpoche, Z-O-N-G, Song Rinpoche. Anyway, and he's doing teaching. So again, attend teachings when you can. So again, as I said, I did a couple of years of teachings. In there, I did some Guru Yoga retreats and stuff like that, because they only take about a month to do. And then finally, 1978, I heard about doing the 3-year retreat. It was sort of intriguing, just sort of how circumstances happen. And this is, you'd say, the magic of our life sometimes. I'm in Bodh Gaya. Look, I've been a monk now for 8 years. I've done lots of retreats and meditations and this and that, I'm walking around the Bodh Gaya stupa, and there's this group of monks in front of me, and I overhear them saying, oh, we're going to go to Ling Rinpoche. Now, Ling Rinpoche was one of my main teachers. He was always available for me. And he said, oh, I'm going to go see Ling Rinpoche. We're going to ask for the Nyenchen, it's called the Great Retreat. Now, it's not strictly speaking a 3-year retreat, but most of us know it as a 3-year retreat. And they said they're going to get that. And I thought, oh, interesting, I've never heard of that. I never thought of that, But in my mind, I'd always had the idea that although I was in the Galupa lineage, I always in the back of my mind wanted to do a 3-year retreat. It was sort of like that's the way to go to get enlightened. But I'd already done 8 years of teaching, so I had a bit of a foundation. So anyway, I then went to Ling Rinpoche. I did 3 prostrations, offered a mandala, and said, can I please receive the transmission for doing a 3-year retreat? And he paused for a moment. He said, yes. He says, but please do all your preliminaries again. So we're talking a couple of years worth of practice ahead of me again. And that's already with 8 years of Dharma under my belt. But he said, why? Because you'll have a wealth of good karma, a wealth of good energy that will make the retreat more successful. So that's the main point why I wanted to establish for you that don't think preliminary practices are some dogmatic thing, or like, why do I need to do it? I've already got a high-end practice. No, they're if you don't have a lot of good energy, and I'm not talking about, we say karma, but karma just means I've got capacity. Like if you've got a lot of good karma, you won't have many arguments with people because you're more intelligent than that. You know how to deal with yourself. You'll most likely be having a pretty good relationship with somebody if you wanted to be in a relationship. You most likely won't have much problem with money because you've got a lot of good karma. You've got a lot of good energy. Just good things happen, And it doesn't mean you need to be born in a rich family or something. It just means, like, say you say, hey man, I want to do a 3-month retreat, and some of your friends surround says, hey, we got the money, we'll foot the bill for you. You go, wow, that's good karma. So it doesn't have to be so much personal good karma in the sense of that you got money, rather you've got friends that will support you. I mean, and I know this is setting up a good Dharma group. maybe you guys could still start building up a little bit of a fund, maybe like every month, if there's like a couple hundred of you or something, you donate $10 towards a fund that then somebody applies for it and they say, hey, I want to do a 3-month Vajrasattva retreat. I need the money to be able to do that. And then you guys can say, okay, hey, we have the money, make an application, tell us how good you are, or like what preliminaries you have. Because going into retreat, when I did it, there wasn't a hell of a lot of teachings. Like, okay, I had some teachings, but I didn't have a lot because there was no translators. There's no books translated. Nowadays, I mean, we're 50 years ahead of where I was at. Okay, there's lots of teachings. And then I've got 2 YouTube channels on how to do Vajrasattva and prostrations. Actually, I'm going to do another YouTube travel on Guru Yoga. Okay, and then Mandala offerings too. We can do that one. So I'll put those up on my site, let alone the fact that there's lots of other teachings out there and teachers. Okay, so coming back to my point is that the preliminaries is good energy, good karma. So for example, prostrations means you're humble. I mean, if you were so smart, you wouldn't need to take teachings because you just figure it all out. But we're not, we make mistakes. We don't have quite the right understanding. We're not in harmony with reality, which is what the voidness is all about. Okay, so having teachers that maybe have had experience, and in this case particularly having lineage, that's really important. Then wow, I should respect these guys. I mean, if you're involved, for example, in, let's say, any training, so especially, for example, in martial arts, I mean, you respect your teacher, and it's, your bows or whatever you do, and it's part of their tradition. Well, that's part of the Buddhist tradition too, in the sense of that having respect and appreciation of your gurus. Okay. Anyway, coming back to the main point, so accumulating merit. So prostrations is, you appreciate people who can help you and you're respectful. And again, I'll talk about it in my YouTube video on prostrations. It's actually getting, you'd say, turned on to what it would mean to be enlightened. So for example, let's say you have a really good feeling about Milarepa or maybe about Padmasambhava or Tsongkhapa or any of the great gurus, or something like that. Then doing a prostration to them is like you're saying, hey, you guys are important. I mean, so often, let's say, for example, we've got a little bit of money, maybe we have a BMW or a Mercedes or something, or a Lexus, maybe we have a nice car, you say, oh, I have a nice car. My car is wonderful. I have prestige because I drive my car. People look at me because I'm driving a rich car, that you're making prostrations to your BMW, which is useless. It's going to become a piece of junk after a while, make a prostration to a Buddha, or again, pick a guru that you want. So maybe you're making there's a standard one is the 35 Buddhas of the, it's called the Sutra of the Three Heaps, 35 prostrations, or 35 Buddhas of confession or something like that. But you could then, into them, you just put Padmasambhava, Guru Rinpoche, Milarepa or something that inspires you. And what you're doing is you're getting yourself turned on because you really like them, that you're doing a prostration to them, and that's karma, and that'll manifest in your next rebirth. You'll see a statue of a Buddha or something, and you go, wow, that's meaningful. And I'm not being disrespectful, but if you think about it, seeing statues of Buddhas, I mean, very peaceful Buddhas, sitting in meditation, or the Japanese Buddha with his hands up in his fat belly, and if you rub his belly, he'll make you happy. I mean, all these silly little things like that. But the thing is, if you saw them and thought, wow, that's sort of interesting, that's a karma. And how you want to cultivate that is, making prostrations to Buddha images and stuff. It's about, you guys turn me on. I really respect you, more than just sort of saying, oh, hi, Buddha, like, no, I'm willing to do a full body prostration, which is a huge accumulation of karma. And on the other side, of course, it's also elimination of negative karma. Things like that. I remember when I was a kid, I mean, I grew up on a farm, so we killed animals. I used to go fishing and kill lots of stuff, and then I had a gun. I used to kill birds. I didn't know any better. I just, didn't know things. Although I remember one time I had my gun and I saw a bird in the tree, and so I shot it, and there's this big puff of feathers, and the bird flew away, and I went, oh, I didn't kill it, and it's going to suffer. And at that point, actually, I put my gun away. I never used it again because I suddenly got it that I just caused a lot of suffering, and I hadn't, successfully killed it. Now, that's really sort of gross nowadays. I'd never want to begin to want to kill anything. But the thing is, at that point, I didn't know any better. It's culture. So anyway, one time I went to Lama's Open and said, well, when I was young, I used to kill a lot of things. He says, okay, well, you've done prostrations and stuff. And said, yeah. I says, don't worry, the karma's very small now. And I guess I've been okay. I haven't had any big illnesses or anything, which would be causing harm to another creates a karma that you will have harm in your body. You will have illnesses or accidents or something like that. So anyway, long and short of it is that prostrations purifies physical karmas that you may have caused to others, but it also, the bigger direction to be is, I'm really turned on by Guru Rinpoche, Padmasambhava, Milarepa, Tsongkhapa, whoever, these great gurus, great beings. So I do a prostration. So that means I've got great karmic connection, and especially in my next rebirth, when I see a Buddha statue, it's going to be like, whoa, I like that. I mean, just on the side note again, I remember when I was 14, my mother and my grandmother wanted me to be confirmed, which is okay, so I got confirmed. Never touched me, not even a little bit. Okay, nice, Jesus Christ, everything. Nothing. I met Buddhism and like, wow, I want this. Within 2 weeks, I decided I wanted to be a monk, having met Buddhism. And I'm not trying to say I'm wonderful. I've got my practices and stuff. But the point is, that's all karma. Anyway, so prostrations, that's that. Okay, so that's about being humble, appreciating teachers, establishing, again, lots of good karma and directions of like saying, Buddha's turned me on. And remember, flesh that out. It's like Buddhists have this ability to, in a certain situation where there's some delusion, they know how to deal with it. They have skillful means. It's not like this, I am a Buddha and that doesn't bother me. Nah, that's such a pathetic way of thinking about this. Like Mr. Potato Head Buddha, No, Buddhas are incredibly skillful in adapting. And if you can't quite figure out how Buddha, then think of great bodhisattvas who just have great ability to deal with people with their neurosis and their problems and stuff and whatever. And they don't get hooked into something like that, That's skillful means. Okay, so anyway, that's prostrations, and that's again recognizing the qualities and doing a prostration to that, compared to doing a prostration to your BMW or to your nice set of clothing or to your jewelry or something like that. Okay, that's prostrations. Then Vajrasattva. Now Vajrasattva is, I want to emphasize that one you should do slowly. You can knock it off in like 2 months if you really do a lot of mantras. You can do it in 3 months if you do it nicely with maybe 1,000 mantras a day, because it's a 100-syllable mantra. So you do 4 sessions or 5 sessions a day, each session 150, 200 mantras, or 250 at least, 4 sessions a day. Then you 1,000 a day, takes 3 months, and then you're finished, okay? Or, I'm going to talk about it for us as lay people too. You can do it other ways, but if you did have a chance to do a 3-month retreat like that. But the point is that it's scanning your body, and you scan it with nectar of the gurus and the Buddhas, and it goes through your body. If you've ever been involved in a Goenka course, that's a Goenka with the Vipassana tradition, where it's a 10-day retreat. They're actually all over the world now. They're normally free. You attend to make a donation. I highly recommend attending them. Although you wouldn't want to say you're a Tantric practitioner. They don't like that. They're a bit fundamentalist, and there is that in Buddhism. So I don't think all Buddhists are wonderful. But the long and the short is that that tradition is really good, because you scan your body with no visualization. So you really do go down and you find, well, this part of my body is like dead meat. There's no sensation. And you go a little bit lower and you go, whoa, I got some sensations here. And you go down here and you go, whoa, nice sensations. You go down here, whoa, there's pain. Okay, maybe I've got some past trauma or something like that. Very good retreats to do. I recommend them because they're well organized, 10 days. It's a lot of heavy duty meditation, and you're doing real scanning of your body. So if you have the time, and again, they're all over the world nowadays. Even here in Mexico, you can do Goenka retreats. The thing is, then, again, don't say you're a Tantric practitioner. They don't like that. And they'll say normally, if you want to do another retreat with us, you have to make a commitment. You have to drop your yoga and drop all sorts of stuff. I mean, they're a bit fundamentalist, yeah. But the retreats are good. Okay, I've done 2 of them. Had to lie the second time I went. I didn't tell them, let's just say that. And they were nice to me. But actually, at the end of it, they said, because I did it, and I really had a good experience. I went, wow. And I went up to the main teacher, I was older than him and had been Buddhist longer than he had been. But at the point, I said, wow, it's a really good retreat. Thank you so much. And then he looked at me and said, well, thank you, but you can't attend any more retreats. And I said, oh. And all I could think of was that you just rained on my parade. I just came in to say, wow, these are really good retreats. And then you shoot me in the foot, because of course I was of other traditions. Anyway, a little off topic, but the point is that still their retreats are really good. You can easily do one without having to worry about it. And why do I put emphasis to that is because when you do Vajrasattva, you do involve faith, and you do involve, again, if you have a really good feeling with your guru, you feel your guru's energy is going down through your body, along with scanning, which is just the basic Vipassana technique. But it's a lot more powerful because you got faith, you got feelings about it and stuff like that. So Vajrasattva is that. And it is, you could say, it's combing your nervous system, combing your chakras and taking the knots out. Okay, that's pretty much what it is. Now, in there's also, the 4 purifications. So let's say you've done something pretty bad, or just you've got some negative karma with, maybe some people or something like that. Then again, you use the Vajrasattva practice to purify that. And again, the first downward washing is you feel that snakes and scorpions and spiders go out your anus and such, and just whatever heavy negative karmas get washed away. It's a visualization, but the point is you do feel heavy karmas are washed. And then the second one, you fill up and you feel more subtle karmas come, and they come out your nose and ears and think is a black slime. Okay, and then that purifies more subtle karmas. And then the third one, the nectar comes down, hits your heart chakra, and then it just basically, you immediately have your whole body filled with light and bliss, and you feel the very subtle karmas that maybe were in your mind get completely purified. Those are the visualizations. Again, it's in my YouTube channel, so I'm not going to go into detail about it. But the bottom line is, you can sit there and you can do, Vajrasattva Samyamanu, Palaya Vajrasattva Dena, Vajrasattva Sukama, Sukama, Anarakama, Sabrasima, Zavakama, Suchame, Chuchim, Haha, Vajrasattva. Okay, that doesn't mean much. The mantra, again, if you don't have it, I can send you the text. The mantra is meaningful. It says, oh, you Vajrasattva who have commitment, please don't abandon me. Please be with me. Please love me. Please purify me. Please give me the wisdoms and such. It's a really quite meaningful mantra. So you should say the mantra a little bit slower. Now, again, if you're on this sort of like I'm going, super fast to get enlightened, and I'm going to do this mantra really fast because I'm going to get this out of the way so I can do other things, error. It's not the way to do it. If you do a good Vajrasattva practice, you're going to really have some good energy in your body. And it's not about knocking off 100,000 mantras. It's about doing good meditation. So again, feeling it really like, and whether it's you have the Dalai Lama or even some gurus that have passed away that you maybe watch some videos. For example, for me, Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche was a great Nyingma Lama. Now, I did receive teachings from him and I did get blessings from him. He moves me deeply. Ling Rinpoche was my main guru, of course moves me too, but somehow this Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, even though he's passed away, still carries a huge amount of weight in my consciousness because he was just really special, unbelievable, And then there's other ones. Now there's not Chime Rinpoche. There's the Khargyu Lama that's quite famous. I don't remember his name right now. He's really good. He did the 3-year retreat by just walking out of his monastery. Again, I'm so silly I can't remember his name, but it happens to me. I'm at my age, sometimes can't get names down. Anyway, the point being is that you feel their energy goes down through you. And it's an inspiration. It gives you more capacity. It gives you confidence. And one of the things that's important with guru yoga is if you have some good gurus, and it can be from different lineages, but the thing is, certainly gurus that embody some enlightenment, embody some capacity to be skillful and stuff like that, then that's like a huge blessing in your life. And you should feel that they totally support you. It's not like they like you today and they don't like you tomorrow and whatever. That's a really low view of gurus. Gurus are 100% there for us to help us become more enlightened. So when you have that sort of a feeling that really, the Dalai Lama or Ling Rinpoche or whoever my guru is, Garchen Rinpoche, whoever is really cares for me, really, wants me to become more enlightened. And then you feel their energy goes down through you. That's where the Padmasambhava group isn't quite as good as, the Goenka group. Their technique's good, but it's not as profound as Tantric practice. Tantric practice puts it at a whole nother level, but it relies on basic Vipassana Goenka technique. Okay, so I'm sorry if I'm beating a drum a bit about something, but hey, I've been around for a long time. I've done 3 Vajrasattva retreats in my life. The first one took me 3 months. Another one took me 2.5 months or something like that. So I've done 100,000 mantras a couple times, and accordingly and I should have purified all my negative karma and things. But now I'm, at 74 years old. Okay, I can say, whoa, slow down and do it well. Get a really good flavor for it. Even if you only get up to 20 or 30,000 Vajrasattva mantras, if you do them well, it's going to be so blissful for you, so good. You're going to have a really good practice compared to this ramrodding it through with mantras, quick recitations. Now, having said that, let's talk about being lay people. Okay. Now, you guys most likely work. Some of you might be a little bit more free, have a bit more freedom and stuff like that. Can take off a month or so. But if you can't, you can do 100 prostrations every day. I have a couple of students that have done it. They did it for 3 years, 100 prostrations a day, and they accomplished their 100,000. And that doesn't take more than about 25 minutes, okay? That's not too much time in your life, and if you do it with all the things I talked about inspiration, it's meaningful. It makes your day feel good, Yes, you're going to be a little bit sore when you first start, but as you get into them, they're going to be better. Again, you should have a cushion for your knees when you go down on your knees, okay? Maybe I should try to do a YouTube video of doing prostrations properly. It's but you go down and stretch out. Long and the short of it, though, is okay, you do 100 a day. Then you can do 100 Vajrasattva mantras a day. That takes a little bit longer, but then again, in 3 years, you've accomplished that. Now, again, we're lay people. We have jobs, maybe we have relationships, we have stuff like that. So maybe it's not I can't just disappear for 3 months or something. If you're really lucky, you've got a lot of good karma, you can. But if you can't, then look at it that way. Okay, I'm going to start my prostrations and my stuff. Now, strictly speaking, prostrations you don't need to have done every day. You can do them, do them for a week or two, and then maybe you get busy, you can't do it for 4 or 5 days, and you get back and you do prostrations. Not a problem. You can accumulate your 100,000 that way. And it is the number, it just means you did something. The same thing applies with all of the deity yogas. I just posted a thing on notes on Anantara Yoga. It was on my YouTube channel as of yesterday. Okay, in that, mantra retreats are merely to go and say you've done something. You did it to this level. Doesn't mean you were successful or anything, or you got some great realizations, but it just means you put your nose to the grindstone and you worked. That's why the numbers are there. Once you finish the numbers, you should stop worrying about numbers of mantras and you should just get into the meditation. Again, it's all on my YouTube channel yesterday. I talk about it quite extensively, and there's going to be 5 more classes on that every Sunday. If there's a Zoom link, I'll give it to Odysseus for that if you want to attend. It's in English and Spanish because I'm mostly teaching here in Mexico. Okay, anyway, coming back to it, that's one. Then so Vajrasattva and prostrations, that's one way to do it, because there are gurus out there. I think, is it Odysseus, is you needed to accomplish preliminary practices to attend some teaching or something like that you wanted to. Okay, so yeah, if you do them and then you go to a guru and say, I want these teachings, and they say, well, have you done the preliminaries? And you can say yes. Now, you don't need to say, I did Galupa preliminaries, I did Nyingmapa preliminaries, I did, Sakyapa. You don't really need to say that because preliminaries are preliminaries. Good preliminaries about becoming enlightened. They're not lineage specific. Now, if the Lama gets really specific and says, well, did you do them to Guru Padmasambhava? Well, maybe you didn't, but you can say, well, no, I did them to Buddha Shakyamuni or something like that. Again, depends how sectarian the teachers are, but preliminaries are preliminaries. I mean, I can tell you, if you have quality and you go in front and you, let's say you're in a Galupa lineage, that's my lineage, okay, primarily. Okay, so you're my lineage, you've done these preliminaries and you've developed quality. And you go over to a Nyingmapa Lama who's a good Lama, and you say, I'd like to attend teachings. They know, and they say, well, have you done prostrations? You say, yeah, I did them, in the Galupa lineage. And then they, okay. But they can sense whether you've got quality. And they'll say, yes, you can attend. Because you've got quality, because you did a good job with yourself. Okay. Now, again, some teachers are quite sectarian. That's just the way it is sometimes. But I can promise you, if you do have quality, things that teachers in other lineages pick up on that if they're a good teacher, and basically you'll get the teachings you want. For example, I'd never met Garchen Rinpoche, but I had a lot of respect for him. I think he's wonderfully, he's still alive. He's in California or New Mexico or something. Anyway, so I managed to attend an initiation of him, of actually the Khargyu lineage of Yamantaka. It was in Denver, Colorado. Okay. I mean, I had some really nice experiences in that. And I can say, Garchen Rinpoche picked up on, maybe I had a little bit of ability. So I was like, thank you so much. So my point being is that it doesn't matter what lineage you do them in. If you do them with an idea of becoming enlightened. That's universal. It's not like a Nyingmapa, Khargyupa, Gelugpa, or Sakyapa Buddha. You are a universal being. So do them within that context. Okay, anyway, so that concludes those two. Then Mandala offerings, well, Mandala offerings is good. It's about generosity. And what it is that you generate this sense of a continual flow coming out of you of whatever sentient beings need, may they have it. And then you do it with these prayers. You actually can accomplish 100,000 refuge prayer, and then you can also accomplish 100,000 Mandala offerings at the same time, because you put those two prayers together. Again, I did it in Tibetan, so it was Sangye Chonan Sogye Chonan La Chanchu Bordet on the Gabje Dakijan Sage Wei Sange Drola Pender Sange Drupasho. When you're doing those verses, you're cleaning the dish. And then you do the Mandala offering, which is just 5 heaps. You one in the center and the 4 to the 4 cardinal directions, and you hold it, and then you Sashi Pogi Choshing Nanda Diamria and Shooting was under the Sangashing to make it work the drop and then the. Now, the prayer can go a little bit quickly on that one, but I mean, it has meaning. I mean, I go for refuge and I make an offering of a mandala. But the real thing is that you just feel from your heart there are clouds of, called Samantabhadra clouds of offerings, and may all sentient beings have everything. And what you're creating is this really rich sense of abundance. And if you've ever been around somebody that had a really good idea about something, so maybe a business idea or something like that, but you could pick up right away, there's good energy here, and this guy's got something positive, okay? That's because they have a sense of abundance. They have a sense of, positive, constructive, going forward energy. And you pick up on that and you get excited about it. Maybe you make an investment in that or something. Okay, compared to being, well, miserly and where's the money going to come from? And I'm not sure it's going to work, and all those sort of negative thoughts. So Mandala offerings are about abundance and about generosity, and may everybody have happiness. And you have that quality. Now, it doesn't mean you give away all your money or something like that, but it just means you have a very good feeling in your body about, may everybody have happiness and the cause of happiness, and may everybody be free of suffering and the cause of suffering. Okay, so you have those sorts of feelings. And for example, Tsongkhapa, who is our primary guru, he did, something like 14 million Mandala offerings. I can't remember the number exactly, but he did that. And then the Galupa became the most rich of all of the Buddhist traditions. They had the most money, they had the biggest monasteries and everything. And it's said because Tsongkhapa, who is the founder, had done so many Mandala offerings. Okay, now whether we believe that or not, let's say Tsongkhapa, the big thing he was incredibly intelligent, and he wrote really well and profound practices. For example, I mean, maybe you're familiar, I'm doing the Guhya Samaja teachings right now. That has incredibly rich material coming from Tsongkhapa, because he had a very high-end practice of Guhya Samaja. He had a very high-end practice. He had direct visions of Yamataka. He was a very, very special guru. Anyway, Mandala offerings, abundance. You know, there is good, there is the possibility. Anyway, so just, you know, don't ever think that I'm poor. You know, you might not be rich, but have a sense of abundance, that things will work out, positive energy, and things go well. Okay, and then finally, Guru Yoga. That's normally the last one you do. You can skip a little bit the Mandala offerings. Like, I didn't do them right away, but you know, like my life worked out. I had enough money to always stay alive. You know, for the 14 years I was a Buddhist monk, in total, I think I spent $12,000. But you see, $50 a month was pretty much what I got to live on. Now, I was in India and it was a long time ago. But the thing is that, so, you know, they say money comes and money goes. Don't be too concerned about it. But Mandala offerings, doing them is good because it is abundance. It creates prosperity. It creates wealth. But the thing is, it's about abundance. It's about generosity. Guru Yoga, no, that's something definitely. So if you want to put an emphasis, prostrations, Vajrasattva, and then Guru Yoga would be the three big ones you put emphasis to. Mandala offerings you can throw in there as you want to. And now Guru Yoga is normally only a 1 month retreat, depends on the practice you do and stuff like that. And so it's not too long of a retreat. And if you got the other ones underneath your belt, this goes quite well. And so the Guru Yoga, like in our tradition, is normally the 100 gods of Tushita, or it's called Gadan Tlagama, 100 gods of Tushita. It's got a 5-line prayer, which is the prayer to Tsongkhapa. That's our lineage. There are other practices. There's also name mantra, which you normally would do. Again, in our lineage, you do the 100 gods of Tushita. Again, I can send you all these texts and stuff. And then at the end of that, then you could switch over and do the name mantra of your guru. And that's, it would be Oma Guru Vajradhara, and then their name, Sarvasiddhi Hum Hum. That's the technique you do. And you do that normally as a second part of Guru Yoga practice. And that's where, again, if you have a teacher that touches you deeply, that really says, wow, I mean, this guy has capacity, and it can be a woman too. I mean, don't try to just be male oriented. But the thing is, somebody that really has capacity, has ability, has touched you in a way, then when you do Guru Yoga, you're awakening all those qualities in yourself. Guru Yoga is really, it's just very powerful, again, but it relies on a deep feeling, Now, again, maybe we don't have, if you don't have a lot of contact with the guru, it's maybe sometimes a little bit hard. But again, it's a bit projection. I mean, you go and see a guru and you project that they have, some ability. Maybe they've opened their central channel, they've seen the clear light or something like that. So the thing is, if you've got those sorts of projections, when you do Guru Yoga, those things within you are being ripened because it's your projection. That there is something constructive about projection. Okay, and in this case, it's projections of something that is humanly possible, consciously can be experienced. It's not just sort of a projection of something useless. It's a projection about spiritual attainments. And I'm not just talking about powers. I'm talking about having a compassionate mind, having a mind that's again opened up the central channel, has seen the clear light, has the ability to astral project. It's the illusory body or something like that. Those things. So those projections on your side, it said even if the guru doesn't really have them, if you project that they have them, you're blessing yourself. Okay, so it's quite interesting. Anyway, so Guru Yoga, great. There's you normally do Om Hum. Receive energy into those 3 chakras and stuff like that. It is the 3rd practice you normally do after some purification. Okay, so I think that pretty much covers what I wanted to say and stuff. Now I'm going to show the chat. Okay, yeah, and it's a good idea. I just realized if there's $10, $20 a month, that's what you spend on Starbucks, why don't you get somebody that's in your group that's got integrity and say, okay, that person's going to accumulate money. And if there's 100 of you at $20, that's $2,000 a month, okay. And then suddenly you can turn around and say, so and so seems to have really good quality. You have to check up somebody who's asking for to go on a retreat. They can't be just brand new with no foundation. But if somebody's put a couple years in, they've attended teachings and stuff, and they say, hey guys, I'd like to do the retreat. I've got the time off work, and I just need the money for, I don't know where I can do it, and paying for the food or whatever might be necessary. And suddenly you guys can turn around and say, yeah, we got the money. Isn't that cool? And it's just about the integration. I'll say that's good.
You can even start a Dharma center that way. That's more
Yeah,
good.
Dharma centers are good, but then there's politics. And I'm very much part of a big, huge organization called FPMT, and that's Lama Yeshe. That was his organization. But you do need to be a little careful always about Dharma centers and then politics that come into it. But my suggestion is a Dharma center that is focused on yogis, the yoginis practicing. That it's not about, oh, we've got to build a temple, we've got to do this, we've got to do that. No, it's about let's get practicing going. And then if you do buy some land to make a retreat center on, great, but just say be a little careful. Okay, so that was a little bit my prejudice, not my bias. Okay. Let's make an action towards going forward. Okay, good. Anyway, so I'll open up the chat. So if you want to write a message, or if you want to not do a verbal one, that's okay. Just if you have a question verbally, make it short. Okay. And I don't know, Otis, did I touch the things you wanted me to touch?
Of course you did, Lama, and it's such a great honor to have a teacher of your caliber organizing this meeting for us. Truly, thank you. It's a great honor. I would like to ask a question that you have already answered in private and in email, but just for the sake for others to hear it as well, I'm going to ask it again.
Yep.
So the question is, do we need a special blessing, transmission, or empowerment for us to begin our preliminaries practices?
Yes and no. Okay. Prostrations, no. There's no special transmission or anything like that. The prayer that I would recommend is the 35 Buddhas. It's the one I've done all the time. It requires, that there's different ways to visualize it. Again, in my YouTube video, I think I described the one I would recommend. And the prostrations, there's two things. Again, it was in the YouTube video, but just to say, it's hard to memorize all the names when you're at the beginning. So for example, I could knock off at least 5 or 10 of the names without having too much trouble right now. And even though I did prostrations, 30 years ago. But the thing is, you tape record it, maybe on your cell phone, slowly. So in Tibetan, it'd be on Desha Shabada Chamayan, Dabazobe Sangeda Chamala Cha Selo. Desha Shabadingmala Cha Selo. So you do it at a rate where then you do 35 prostrations, but you do them slowly so that you get your recording can match the speed that you can do a prostration. That way, at the end of doing the 35 names, you've done 35. Do that 3 times, you've done 115. If you can do that every day, you're going to get your 3 years of 100,000 out of the way. Okay, so that requires no initiation. Now, if you have received Yamataka, Heruka, Guya Samaja, Kalachakra, in that you did get a Vajrasattva initiation, so you don't need to get another one. There are initiations of Vajrasattva. I could do it actually online for you guys because it's not a long initiation. It takes about half an hour, 30, 40 minutes. So if you'd like, I can do that. That would be.
Certainly wouldn't say no to that.
Okay. Well, because I
Have the time, Lama.
I did my first retreat of Vajrasattva without any initiation. Geshe Dargi or Geshe Rapton was my teacher. He said, no, just do it. And he gave me a blessing for it. But Lama Yeshe later then started giving Vajrasattva initiations, which is not that common in the lineage. But Lama Yeshe was a real yogi. He wanted people to have a basis. So there is initiations of Vajrasattva. I can give one. Maybe if we do a couple more meetings like this, maybe somewhere in the end of March or beginning of April, we can do a Vajrasattva initiation, okay, with you guys. Okay, so, and whether it's, can be open to whoever wants to attend. The commitment would be that you have refuge and you taking bodhisattva vows. So the thing is, if you're into this, you're going to have refuge in bodhisattva. Okay, that's just going to be there. So that's something we can do. So that Guru Yoga, there's not, well, there are Guru Yoga initiations. You can do it without an initiation. There is one. I'd have to check up and see. I think I have one for it, so that but again, if you have a Heruka, Yamantaka, Vajrayogini, Kalachakra initiation, you've got already the initiation for Guru Yoga too. So both the Vajrasattva and Guru Yoga already are in your tantric initiations, but they are individual little, what they call Jainams, which are called permissions. Okay, is it possible to do the Yamantaka Vajrasattva mantra from the Yamataka Sana? Yeah, you could do the Yamataka thing. It is more specific to Yamataka, but yes. In the practice of Vajrasattva, you can do it visualizing your ordinary sense of self, your ordinary body, and Vajrasattva going through it, or you can visualize being your deity, and then you do Vajrasattva practice again through the body. The one that I would recommend just to be, well, they both would work, but the most important thing is in Vajrasattva practice is that you're actually going through your nervous system. Remember, it's combing it. You're combing it, cleaning it, taking the knots out. And you're doing that with your faith and feelings in the gurus and the Buddhas and all of that. And it's got nectar, it's got fluid that's included, which gives a little bit more sensation. Those factors are really important. Okay, so you could do it with the Yamantaka mantra. Traditionally, it's done with the either standard Vajrasattva or Heruka Vajrasattva. Okay, so that's fine. So you can identify as Vajrasattva if you've had the Yamantaka initiation. At the end of your Vajrasattva practice, you could identify as being Vajrasattva. Yes. Okay, so that's when you do the practice, you always Vajrasattva is on the crown. And then he puts his nectar through you, or Vajrasattva with consort is on the crown, and they put their nectar through you. That's important. But at the end of the practice, normally then you say, okay, then Vajrasattva absorbs into you. If you have the initiation, whether it's just the Jainang initiation or the Yamantaka, Heruka, Kalachakra, then you can be Vajrasattva, in union with the consort at the end of your practice. Yes. Okay. Other questions? It's pretty good. We're going exactly 1 hour.
Hello, Lama Jampa. Thank you for these excellent teachings. I have maybe 2 questions. So the first question regarding the Mandala offering. Is it really important to have a physical support, or is it good enough to do this gesture with the hand and recite the prayers and make the visualization? And my second question is a bit related to what we just discussed. So, for example, when you're doing the Vajrayogini sadhana, you have a lot of preliminaries that are built in, like Guru Yoga, Vajrasattva, and Mandala offering. And so, is it the same as doing the preliminary practice, or is it somehow being made more profound by being incorporated into the highest yoga tantra sadhana?
Yes and yes. Okay, sorry, it's a joke. Actually, Otis would know my joke. Okay, yes. Okay, so Mandala offerings. Generally speaking, you do it with the plate doesn't have to be. Okay, you can do Mandala offerings without the official things. You have some sort of a basis that you need, and then you rub it and stuff. So that you could do it without that. You would do prayer. Normally you mix it with refuge. That's the standard way to do it. So it's got 2 sets of, the 2 sets of 4 lines. Okay, the refuge is 4 lines, Mandala offering is 4 lines, generally speaking. You can do it in English, no problem at all. And so you do, you know, I go for refuge of Buddha, Dharma, Sangha from now until enlightenment. I work for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all beings be happy. Sashi, Boki, Joshi. Well, again, I have to do it in English. I'm sorry. It's Tibetan, so Sashi, Boki, Joshi, Mino, Damri, religion, you know, so I go for refuge of Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, like that. You can do it that way, yes. Okay, that would work. There is, you know, some teachers who might say, no, it needs to be done more professionally, but again, depends, you know, on what you have. Again, I don't have my base here or anything like that, but you can pretty much anything. I'll have to do a YouTube video of making Mandala offerings. And in that, then maybe I'll touch on this point, okay? So one, I could say, yes, you don't need the material goodies. It could work, yes, as long as you're doing the prayer. You have to memorize it, of course, and then you have to do the visualizations. That's one. Second one, generally speaking, the preliminaries are, of course, within the context of your Anuttara yoga, but the thing is, normally you can break them out and just do that practice. So you would do, for example, let's say if you do Yamataka or Vajrayogini or Haruka, in those, there's a Vajrasattva practice. But if you wanted to just pull that out of whatever particular sadhana you like, and you can do just that practice, so it's a little bit shorter. You don't have to do the whole sadhana of Haruka or something like that. That's more traditional, but that doesn't mean you couldn't. So if you had, let's say, an hour every morning that you were free, then you could, so you start up your Haruka or your Vajrayogini or Yamataka, maybe you do a little bit of the shorter sadhana, and then when you come to the Vajrasattva, then you do 100 Vajrasattva mantras, if that was what your goal was. Okay, it is, you know, you can do 21, but if you wanted to try to do the 100,000 over 3 years, then you do 100, and then you conclude your sadhana. That's a little bit long, because generally speaking, you can, you know, just you do Vajrasattva as an individual practice. So then the generation of Vajrasattva, the mantra, and the conclusion are a bit shorter. So it's a more compacted sort of practice. But you could, if you have the time, do it within a larger sadhana. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions or?
I have another question to ask Lama Zamba.
Sure.
So I've heard from some advanced practitioners that as one advances into Vajrasattva practice, there's is going to be a ripening of karma, and this event sometimes being some unpleasant surprises. I want to ask you, what is your experience on this? And if it does happen, how would you recommend for us to manage those unpleasant surprises?
Yeah, I've heard this before, you know, I mean, that, oh, when you do these practices, all the bad karma is going to ripen on you. You're going to have a really bad experience. I mean, no, I'm sorry, I can't believe that. You know, yes, you know, stuff happens. Yes. It could be, I mean, to some extent, yes. Why? Okay, so let's say in the past, and I'll just use an example. Let's say you had a really bad relationship breakup and you really hurt that person. You shafted them in a big way. Maybe you took their money or you really caused them some major problem, okay? So you did that because you're just a mundane guy or girl and you really caused a lot of pain, you know? Okay, then you turn around and you say, oh, I like to be a nice person. I like to be a happy person. I like to be more enlightened. Okay, so then you develop this mind over here. But within you, there's that really nasty mind that did some really nasty things to somebody. Okay, this is just an example. Can't say everything. So when you start doing this one over here, yeah, that one gets woken up a little bit because it's sort of like, well, I'm sorry, you were a pretty nasty person 20 years ago or 10 years ago or something like that. So to arrive at being a really nice person, you're going to have to tidy that one up. So it could be that then you know, stuff comes up, whether it's in your mind, emotionally, maybe physically, or even, for example, maybe that person starts contacting you or something like that. I mean, those things I can't talk about, I don't know. But let's say, yeah, so some people will have some really major stuff come through them when they start doing purification. Why? Because they have some packages of pretty heavy karma behind them. Now, it can be, generally speaking, it most likely be something from this lifetime, but it could come up something from a previous rebirth also. I have one lady friend from Australia. She was a student and stuff, and she was doing the Vajrasattva retreat in India, in Dharamsala up in the mountains. And there's a big military camp that was maybe 10 kilometers away. And she used to go for a walk in the forest because this is up in the mountains and stuff like that. So anyway, three soldiers grabbed her and raped her, all three of them, like 1, 2, and 3, okay, and stuff. And so she was a pretty tough Australian girl. So she just she said she was fighting with them for a while, and she just gave up and says, get it over with and finish, and then she went home. Luckily, she didn't get pregnant, but she was really angry because she says, I'm doing a Vajrasattva retreat. Why the hell would this happen? Okay, well, one, she went for a walk in the forest by herself, which wasn't very smart. It's close to a military camp, a whole bunch of men. I mean, there's a bunch of factors there which she really hadn't been very smart about. But maybe even that was a ripening of karma, that she made that decision due to some past karma. So anyway, she went to a clairvoyant. It was actually a lady friend of mine. It was named Tenzing Palmo. She's a really sweet one. She was very clairvoyant. She was actually an American woman. She could do mirror, well, like a crystal ball sort of type of clairvoyance. Even Lama Yeshe and Lama Zopa used to rely on her. Anyway, so she went to her and she said, please, why did I get raped? And then, so anyway, Tenzin Palmo, she was doing the thing, and she said, okay, I see you in a past lifetime. You were a sailor, and you came on shore, and you come up behind this woman, and you grab the back of her neck and put your hand over her mouth and throw her down. And so my friend, she just went like, that's exactly what happened to me. And for her, it fit that she had raped somebody in a previous rebirth as a male. And then this rebirth, she's a female, and she got raped, and she got raped by 3 guys. So I don't know the karma for that. But the point is that, yeah, sometimes some stuff can come up. Now, that was a really extreme one. And also, the bigger thing was that she put herself in a situation where that could happen. If she'd been smart, there'd been 2 or 3 of them going for a walk in the forest, and those soldiers wouldn't have had the chance to do that. So she's a bit foolish, going to a bad part of town or going somewhere isolated where then she could be raped. Anyway, so there's the story for you. I would tend to think that if you have some stuff, whether conscious or unconsciously within you, when you start to do purification, you could say it has the opportunity to come up and express itself. Now, so maybe if there's something you need to work on, well, it's going to come up. So that is purification, yes, that thing. And what you need to do is if you think of a cycle, if you just get angry, for example, if that girl just was angry that she was raped and held a lot of anger in her heart, then she just perpetuates the karma. Whereas if she forgives these guys because she says, okay, it was some of my karma, okay, that karma is finished. I never want to do this again. I always respect other people and their bodies. Okay, then she's cleaned up that karma. So that's an important thing. So if something comes up when you're doing a retreat and it's pretty heavy, then say, okay, well, thank God I have Vajrasattva. I've got my gurus. I've got a practice. I don't want this ever to repeat in my life. And so then you carry on doing your practice. So that would be a real purification. Okay.
Thank you. It was a very interesting answer. As an extra answer, extra question, which is related to my initial question is there a Dharma protector who specializes on protecting practitioners during purification?
Well, Dalai Lama would say it's the Buddha. I'm sorry, not to sort of take away the enthusiasm you have for Dharma protectors, but the Dalai Lama once said, he said, the protector is Buddha Shakyamuni because he gave us the teachings about not creating negative karma and not just perpetuating negative karma by reacting in a negative way. That's the real Dharma protector. Now, if you do have a Yamantaka initiation, automatically, without any extra initiation, you automatically have Kalarupa. He's automatically there. You don't have to make any extra practice for that. But there are, and again, I mean, I see lots of you take initiations from other teachers. There was recently a Mahakala thing, and then there's Paladlamo, Ekachati. There's all sorts of these different protectors. If you did take an initiation of a protector from either myself or other teachers, then they will be there for you. I mean, if you've got practice. If you're not doing any practice, Dharma protectors can't do much. But if you've got a practice going, then Dharma protectors definitely are more interested in you. And certainly, I mean, just Buddha Shakyamuni, interested things. So yeah, if you're doing a purification practice, and again, being skillful, pick a good place, it's safe and secure, that you've got good support around you and stuff like that, then yeah, your practice should go fine. If you picked a slightly dangerous place and you're going to try to do a retreat there, maybe that's not so smart. I mean, again, so always exercising intelligence. That's really important. Okay. So answer was, if you have Yamataka, you already have Kalarupa, just feel he's protecting you. He's out there stomping around outside of your retreat house, and he's going to kick ass on anything that tries to get in the way. Seriously. Okay.
I believe this.
Good. Okay, so I think, well, we're 1 hour and 20 minutes or 10 minutes. I like to wind it down so it doesn't go too long. If you like, we can meet again in 2 weeks. So that'd be today's the 11th, so around the 25th of whatever, 2 Mondays ahead. I think around the 25th or something. We can have another meeting. And at that point, then if you have questions, we can do that. And then maybe at the end of March, I can do a Vajrasattva initiation for you. It's a Jainang. It takes like 1 hour and stuff like that. Okay, so that's something we can do. Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so very good. Nice to see you guys here. Let me close this if I can. So there's 14 of you. Very nice to meet you. Hi, Elizabeth. Nice to see you. And Thomas. Good to see Thomas. You're doing well, and your dad and you are getting along well. Okay, good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, good. And so take good care. This is recorded. I will post it. Hi, Dennis. I will post it on the YouTube. Okay. So just a second. Let me pull up this one more time. Chat. Okay, just thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, big hugs, guys. Take very good care. I don't know, it's just Dharma practice in Buddhism, it's great. For me, I just love it. So I hope you guys enjoy it too. Okay, take good care. I'm going to stop the video.